All right. So, first of all, thanks for everyone for joining us tonight. We're a little bit behind. I know we had originally planned on doing this Thursday. I think last week we delayed it to Thursday this week, and then we realized it was 4th of July here in America for those of you that may be overseas. So we kind of pushed it back to tonight. I think Steve and I have a very exciting episode for you tonight. Steve, you got anything you want to say before we introduce our special guest tonight?
Well, yeah. I'm sure every episode is probably considered exciting by anybody who, the tens of fans who watch. So, but that's all I got right at the moment. So,
okay, cool. I dropped out for like a split second. I don't know what happened, but that's okay. You still with me?
Yep, it's because you're in the basement.
That's probably why. I got booted to the basement for this one. That's okay. No big. All right. So tonight we actually have a special guest joining us.
Yes, we did. We made it work. We promised it on the website. We made it work.
Yes, it took a little bit of work, but we got this special guest to join us. She's been a member of Scientific Paranormal Investigations before either Steve or I remembers of the team.
She's an OG.
Yeah, an OG. That's awesome. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Hey. Thanks for inviting me.
We're glad to have you. It's going to be exciting. We got a lot of stuff to go through tonight. I think we're really excited to have you here on this particular podcast because I think your insight into this particular investigation is going to bring a lot of information to those watching. So it'll be very entertaining. So, Jen, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started, kind of how long you've been in this field and some of the things that you've done in some of your investigations.
Oh, gosh. I think I actually started with SPY in 2006. Prior to that, though, I've always had since I was 5 years old, I would see things, dead people, basically, and kind of put it aside for a while, but then this kind of stuff you can't put aside because it's so interesting. So you just keep and about after 40 years of reading everything I get my hands on, going to seminars, everything else, I'm so glad I found, Scientific Paranormal Investigations and could continue on with that. It was always fun, sometimes exciting, sometimes long. Sometimes we didn't get a lot, but it was always fun.
I think that's just the general consensus with most investigators. Is sometimes it's very long and you don't get anything. That goes with the territory.
That's the nature.
And then sometimes we have investigations where it's a lot of activity going on. And so sometimes we just have to go back. And I think that's kind of what this particular investigation that we're going to talk about tonight kind of turned into. So with that, let's hand it over to Steve. He's going to do some introductions on this particular house, and then we'll go through some of the evidence that we caught.
Well, first and foremost, so the house in question, it's a client's house. We refer to it as the Quartermaster House. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the client themselves, bring any names in this, but this was a house that we were told was associated with the Michigan Military Academy in Orchard Lake, Michigan. The homeowner at the time she referred to it as the Orchard Lake Military Academy, which is not the correct name. Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit how did we get this investigation like this? How did she contact us and what was her claims?
As I recall, she contacted us, I think from our website, if I recall correctly. Let me tell you exactly what the claims when we first talked to her. She indicated that the house was built in 1901. She herself had never had or felt or seen activity, but everyone that came to her house indicated that they sensed something in the home. They felt someone was very unhappy. They also saw shadows on the ceiling, and the mother actually saw doors shutting for no apparent reason. So that was our initial contact with her.
Cool. And again, from the initial contact, we were told that there was a quartermaster for the academy that lived in the house. We were told that the quartermaster's name was a Hollingsworth. So in association with the Michigan Military Academy, I'll go through a little bit of history of the MMA, not the mixed martial arts, the Michigan Military Academy. So originally in 1858, the land across the street from this house that was purchased by a U.S. Army general named Joseph Tarr Copeland, who he was served in the Civil War. He purchased about 90 acres of land right on Orchard Lake to build his home. And his home was like very castle-like. I should have gone and found a picture of it, but I just realized that. So again, notes for next time. In 1871, he converted the land and the house into the Orchard Lake Hotel. But due to the panic of 1873, which that was one of the economic crises for the financial crisis that led to one of the depressions, tourism stopped, people stopped going. So he eventually had to sell the land because he was running out of money. In 1877, it was purchased by J. Sumner Rogers, who was a professor of military science and tactics at the Detroit High School. He wanted to establish a credible military prep school in the Detroit area, and he got many wealthy Detroiters to help him raise the money for the purchase. That turned into the Michigan Military Academy, and it was modeled after West Point. And Rogers later became the quartermaster from 1887 to 1898. If anybody's like, if I keep looking up this because I'm looking at my script. So fast forward to 1900. During that time, he took on a massive project to build quite a few buildings, and he was really took a toll on the financial situation of the academy. And at the same time, they were having problems where they were getting a lot of complaints from the teachers and the students. There's mistreatment of the faculty, mistreatment of the students and cadets, and the meal qualities were going down. So the popularity of the academy started to be affected and was going downhill. About a year later, Roger died. And his wife and his best friend took over running the academy for the next 7 years or so before it finally went bankrupt and closed. Excuse me. A couple years after it closed, it was purchased by the Polish Seminary of Detroit, which to this day it's still there. And it's the SS Cyril and Methodius Seminary. It's also home to St. Mary's Preparatory and I guess an offshoot of Madonna University. So it's still active. It's still very much going in the community. So why is all the history relevant to our investigation? Well, again, as we mentioned, we were told that their quartermaster lived on the property in the house, but there is no record of a quartermaster Hollingsworth ever working for Michigan Military Academy. I went through the databases for West Bloomfield. They have a website set aside which it cataloged all the cadets, the students, the faculty, everybody that worked there. No mention of that name at all. I haven't been able to find the name on any records for the house. So I don't know why the previous owner was told this information, but we found it not to be true. But I had done all the research on the Michigan Military Academy, so that's why I spoke about it. But it's very interesting history because it's right across the street, and I'm sure a lot of people weren't aware that we even had a military academy in Michigan in the early 1900s. So again, a history aspect. So with that being said, let me go through. I'm going to open up the slideshow. I got a few pictures of the house that we can go through. We'll talk about some of the pictures in the areas.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was one of those people. I didn't know that we had Michigan Military Academy either until we started doing this investigation and heard all this stuff. So it was pretty interesting just to kind of learn about that. And I think that's one of the interesting things about most investigations, just the opportunity to learn about things that you may not have been familiar with. I grew up, lived my whole life here, had no clue about it until I went into this investigation. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, same here. Okay, so first slide here. This is some of the, I guess, artifacts or items that the homeowner at the time pulled out of the wall when she was doing some renovations. There's a hat, there's a shoe, some other kitchen items that are there. Jen, do you remember anything specific about the items that she said that she pulled out?
I don't. I remember there was something under the porch that, but I don't see that item there. No, I know that they were doing a lot of renovations and trying, I think, to bring the home back to its original state. Basically, all the the flooring, I think the woodwork, a lot of work went into that.
Right. And as we know, renovations tend to stir up activity.
Yeah.
So I'll go through the next slide here. So there's some of these are just, pictures of the home to kind of give some context. So this is from the kitchen looking into the dining room, where we had quite a bit of activity that we caught in the dining room itself. And said dining room, which I'll show some videos later, of what happened in that area. So this is looking down the main hallway towards the front door, and I know some of the claims were of shadow people. And if I'm not mistaken, was it Shannon or Mike and Shannon who saw a shadow move across that front door and stop and turn to look at you? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was actually interesting. It was, I think, Shannon's first investigation with us, and her and I were at the top of the stairs looking down. Of course, the cameras are pointing up the stairs. Didn't think about going the other way. And we both at the same time are looking down the stairs, and we see right in front of the door you see in front of you there. It was late at night, but you saw what looked like a black mass that passed by. And then there's a second one directly behind it that almost looked like it stopped, turned and looked at us, and then turned and kept on walking from left to right on the screen. And both her and I at the same time hit each other like, did you just see that? And we both realized we saw the exact same thing. And we did everything we could to try to debunk it. I mean, we had people out in the front yard with flashlights trying to cast shadows. We had one of our investigators walking along the porch. We had, driving up and down the road to cast shadows from cars. We couldn't figure out what that was. Of course, it's a personal experience. We didn't catch anything on camera or audio to, justify or to say that we actually did witness that. But both of us at the same time having that happen and reacting at the same time was one of my favorite experiences in any investigation I've ever been on.
Yeah, and what you said before about, of course, we had cameras pointing the opposite way. You'll never catch anything. It's like you can never plan or prepare. I mean, we've all been in that situation where something happens and you're like, gosh darn it, I wish I'd had, something pointed that way. I mentioned that on the Bruce Mansion video, where in the basement, when that piece of plaster fell, it made me rethink how I use my camera and when we're, doing certain things. But again, even if I had placed that camera in the right way, there's no telling that would have happened. So you plan as best as possible.
Yep.
So moving on to the next one. So this room here, now I believe this room here was where they had claims of a little girl, like they would see a little girl walk across this doorway and move towards the piano and go press keys on the piano. Do you remember about that one, Jen?
Where is this? This is on the main floor. Is that correct?
This is on the main floor. So let me go back
Right
to the
off the
stairway here.
hallway?
So the door here on the right, where that clock is, it's in that room.
Okay. Yes. I do remember that room.
Okay.
Interesting.
And of course, the piano that we mentioned, that they had claims of a little girl spirit who would walk through there and press, piano keys.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this angle looking up to the top, the balcony area where it's, there's a door off to the right up there to the right of that chandelier, but this was just a sitting area. And there was also claims that they would see shadow people or shadows moving, up in this area. Everything a lot centered on the dining room and the stairwell, where we had most of our experiences, as far as I believe, or as far as I know. Of course, looking up the stairs, and we'll talk more about stairs, in that area in a little bit when we get to some of the evidence. Again, this was Mike and Shannon's point of view, looking down at that doorway and seeing that shadow person.
Yep.
Right. And I think in this area over here, over by the bathroom, I think that's where a lot of yours and Trisha's experiences occurred, wasn't it, Jen?
Yes, that was.
Because it just seemed like it was a focal area right around there. Just that part of the house and the dining room were everything that we experienced happened in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of activity there.
I got a picture of Scott. Scott's also another member of SPI who unfortunately hasn't been able to investigate with us for a long time, but well, we'll talk more about Scott in a little bit in that area.
Yeah.
So last picture that's on here. So I'll talk a little bit about this. So it's hard to see from this picture, but there's a name that's written there by the name of Robert Shepard with a date of 3/8/15. There's a couple stars of David's up there. So, we assume that he, obviously, may have been Jewish. It's the Orchard Lake area. There's a large Jewish community in that area. We tried doing some research on the name Robert Shepard. I was only able to find one name from that time frame, and it looks like he died in 1947. So that's the only record I can find it at where he was buried. His graveyard is like up north of Port Huron, so it's at least a couple hours away. But the date 3/8/15 is significant because that had to be 1915, because we were there in 2012. So there's no way that somebody could have wrote 2015 up there. So it had been there for 100 years at that point.
Mhm.
And it's just an interesting little tidbit. We never did be able to find any information, if he was one of the homeowners, children of the homeowner. We don't really know. But didn't you have an experience, Mike, in regards to a date, something that happened to you that you picked up on?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did on this investigation is we had myself, I think Jonathan, Jen, and I can't remember who else was in the room. Jen, do you remember who else was in there with us?
I think it was J2.
Yeah, you're right, J2. And Jen was kind of leading us to ask questions to kind of see, if she could feel or pick up a response to something. And we had been going on for a series of questions, probably about for like 5, almost 10 minutes at this point. And she's, ask what happened around 19, I think it was 38, but don't quote me on that. We looked for the audio clip and I cannot seem to locate it. And I'm sure I have it somewhere, but, basically I asked, can you tell us what happened in 1938? And immediately, head to toe, I just felt overwhelmingly sad, and I can't explain it. I started crying. I never had an experience like that before. Haven't had an experience since. And I just felt so sad and heartbroken to the point where I was like starting to shake. I was uncomfortable. If I remember correctly, Jen, you kind of were picking up on, you said, I feel a really overwhelming sense of sadness, correct?
Right.
And so I said, yeah, definitely. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I had to get up and leave the room. I went outside. One of our investigators, Jonathan, was out there, and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just started crying, and I'm physically, I was like outside shaking. I couldn't calm down. And I think we talked about it afterwards. It's that idea of transference, right? If there's a spirit there, that it can imbue its own emotions onto a person that's in the room. I had never had that experience before, and I've never had it since, but it was shocking to just suddenly feel something that was not my own emotions just from asking a question.
Yeah. I was worried about you.
Well, it was so shocking. I lost my hair since then. I'm just pointing that out.
Oh my gosh.
But I get that. I was pretty shaken up. I don't think I've ever been shaken up like that in an investigation before or since. It was shocking. We did some digging, and I think we found out that it wasn't, if I remember correctly, Jen, it was someone's spouse that had passed away around that year. Was that correct?
It seemed to me, yes, it was someone who had passed away, or some tragedy that family.
Yeah, I think it was either
It could have been a death, but it could have also been there was some tragedy.
Yeah, so I remember I think we found out it was like either the husband, his wife passed, or maybe it was he passed to the wife. For some reason, I'm kind of remember it was the wife that I think had passed around that time.
Okay.
And around that year. And we found that out, I think, a handful of, like, maybe a month or so after the investigations, we're starting to kind of piece everything together. So, and if I remember correctly, didn't they have like a desk in the dining room where he would sit and work a lot? I'm struggling to remember exactly what that was, but.
Well, the room that this took place in was upstairs. Do you remember that?
Right.
That little.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I remember talking to the client. She said something about they think that he or she, and I'm really struggling to remember this right now because it was over a decade ago, that after somebody passed, they would sit and spend a lot of time working at a desk somewhere in the house, just kind of coping with that emotion. But it was powerful. It was very emotional and powerful experience for me, and I appreciate you being worried about me.
Oh, I was. I thought, oh my gosh, it's not
Yeah.
fun. It's not fun to feel so
No.
deep.
Yeah. No,
Like it
was tough.
belongs to you,
Yep.
and it doesn't.
So Jen, I know you've also spoke before about this investigation. Do you feel comfortable talking about your experience that you had there? I don't know if you want to talk about it. Okay. I want to ask first before, bringing anything up. So,
Yeah. It was quite, well, yeah. Do you want to go ahead and show it, or?
well, if you want to go ahead and talk about it, because the clip that you're thinking about, I don't have that clip, so I wasn't able to put it in this
okay.
evidence. So
Okay.
that's why I wanted to bring it up so you could talk about it.
Okay. So another investigator and I were upstairs in that small hallway, and we both had K2 meters, and every so often it wouldn't just gradually go up, it would go right to red and last for about 10 to 14 seconds, and then it would just go back off. And this happened probably about 3 times. And let me back up a little bit. After this whole thing happened, I went through and I thought, okay, what is this that's spiking so much? And I'm thinking, if it's something that's, I don't know, a tower or something, but it would, when I timed it, it was maybe like 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Then it'd be maybe 11 minutes. And then I think it was 13. So it was never consistent. So I have no idea basically why it would spike and so high. Not a gradual spike, but all the way. I think it was on the 3rd time this happened. I was talking, and I'm glad I was talking. The more I've thought about this more recently, because all of a sudden my voice started to change. And I'm thinking, I mean, I can feel it. Trish also could feel it. And, our K2s were red. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, I don't want this to happen again. I've had a couple past experiences where someone else I hope this isn't frightening, where someone else has spoken through me. And I just didn't want to get caught in that position. I'm glad I was talking because I could sense what was happening. So I was fighting it so that did not happen. Luckily, we got to get out of here. And I believe, Steve, were you in the trailer when that happened?
Yeah, I was in the trailer.
And I think you saw like a flash of light go through. And we then left the a few minutes before we decided to come back in and kind of regroup a little bit. We also had several different spikes, but not to the extent that we had those 3. And it's interesting. Somebody else say, you like to do paranormal investigations. What's your scariest thing? I never mentioned that. I'm surprised I'm mentioning it now. Never mention it only because I think it's kind of frightening for people to think that someone else could actually speak through you. When it happens to me, it's only happened 2 other times besides this one. And it doesn't usually last long, but my biggest fear is I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get stuck talking like that. I want to talk like myself, type of a thing. So
yeah, that could be very scary.
Yeah, it is kind of.
And it's not too dissimilar to like my experience having that emotions thrown on me. It's out of your control when something starts to talk through you. I couldn't imagine what that would feel like if I felt that, how I reacted to it being said. I don't know how you reacted calmly to feeling like that happened, that would blow my mind, all honestly.
Well, luckily, I think the other times when it happened to me, I wasn't speaking. So when I started to speak, this other voice, luckily this time I was speaking. So I think subconsciously knew what was trying to happen. So it gave me an opportunity to actually fight it more, and say, no, we're not doing this. We are not doing this. And so it didn't last long, which is good.
Cool. And so in the experience that you're talking about, that's one, like I said, we didn't have that, at least I don't have the clip of when that happened, and we didn't have the video files because that was all, back when we were running the DVRs and everything.
Yeah.
So so that information we didn't have. I don't know if Mike might have it, or even if you have a copy of it, but I do have some of the audio files that I'm going to play of those K2 sessions where they were going crazy.
Mhm.
And a little information, like you'll hear something on those clips as well. So we'll try to talk about what could be causing some of the things that you hear, but like I said, we'll get more into that. But
Okay.
thank you for sharing. I know that sometimes we have experiences when we're on investigations, and people, it's good for people to hear that. They see the TV shows and the YouTube channels and the movies, and people have a wildly different perception of what an actual investigation does or what happens on them.
Right.
So I mean, these are real experiences, and again, sometimes nothing happens, sometimes little things happen, but it's never like these crazy things that are going on like on TV. So but it can affect you personally, and you just have to be prepared for it.
Yeah. Got a bubble.
So we'll start going through some of the audio evidence. So the first clip here, this is one of the clips of you and Trish doing it, in those K2s hitting. So I'll play this. Here we go.
Children here, they seem to think they see some children. If they are, we'd certainly like to meet you.
Do you hear the static?
Mhm. I don't know what this stuff.
So that static there, that was when the K2 meters were hitting.
Okay.
And we've seen it in the past before where sometimes on the audio recorders, if something is causing some interference, it gets picked up on the K2. We've seen it. I mean, me personally, I've had that happen when my phone is sending data signals. Like if it's getting a text message or it's doing an update, it will come across there. It's never affected the K2 meter, but I've caught almost that exact same type of static. So again, we don't know what really could have been causing it because it happens quite a bit
Yes.
throughout the investigation and our evidence files. And
And
at
we're
that
all-
time,
Go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, I mean, at that time in 2012, I mean, yeah, we had cell phones and stuff, but they weren't nearly as powerful or can do all the things that we could today. I mean, I think I had a flip phone at the time.
Yeah.
So
And we're all usually really diligent about making sure either our phones are turned off or they're not with us in investigations. So not really knowing what would cause that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think too, before when we, at least for myself, when I've been in other investigations, with even if we did have cell phones, before we were or before I was aware of all of that, it never went all the way to red and stayed there for a time. It was more of a gradual thing, and it never went that high. Those are just such high EMF. Just I wish I knew what they were from, to be honest with you.
maybe someday we'll find out.
Maybe
So
I hope so.
So I'll go ahead. I'll play the second clip. This is also you and Trish talking. You're talking about the little kids, and then you'll hear in the video clips. I'll let it play, and then we'll talk about the clip.
Okay.
Her, haven't you had at least one? Come on, that was funny, wasn't it?
No, so she says no.
With kids, kids think that kind of thing is funny.
Are you still here? Can you at least give us your name?
So that clip right there, you had picked up on when Trish was talking, and you said you felt that someone was saying no. Well, later in the clip, when the audio jumped up, that's where we caught a voice saying no. So I'll play it again so you can hear it, and you'll hear like the volume go up, and I try to amplify the volume on some of the EVPs so it's a little bit easier to hear.
I
Don't mind her.
I have to do it at least once. Come on, that was funny, wasn't it?
No. So she says no.
Mm-mm.
No.
Kids think that kind of thing is funny.
Are you still here? Can you at least give us your name?
So did you hear the no that time when the audio jumped up?
Yeah. It's interesting
So
how they let you know.
I thought it was really cool, going back and re-listening to all these, getting ready for the podcast, that you had picked up them saying no, and then we caught a no.
What's funny too is you're asking, "Are you still there?" and they respond, "No." That's like something I would do.
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. It's like they're telling it, "No, we're not here. You can't see me." I just thought that was interesting.
So it's good interaction. We're actually getting an interaction, and it sounded childlike. So it could have been in relation to the girl that they had mentioned, who would walk across and play the piano.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't remember where that clip was taking at. So it could have been down in that area, could have been up on top of the stairs. But the next clip I got. So this is, again, you guys are talking. You're going to hear. There is a voice that comes off and says a word early in, about 14 seconds in, but then we'll get more of that static on the K2 hits as it's happening. So let me play that one for you.
Oh.
Scott, did you talk to us?
Yeah, so
Just wanted to find out how you guys are feeling up there. It's still freaking you guys out, or what's going on?
I'm not freaking out. Well, it's active. There we go.
Yeah.
ask me if you can see my K2.
So now the K2s are going
Can you
off.
see these K2s going crazy?
Both died at the same time.
Yep.
So did you happen to hear? I saw Mike respond. Did you hear the word "talk" after Scott was talking?
I did not.
Okay, let me play it again.
Oh.
Scott, did you talk to us?
Yeah, so
Just wanted to find out how you guys are feeling up there. It's still
Scott, did you talk to us?
yeah, so
Just wanted to find out how you guys are feeling up there.
Did you hear it that time?
I did hear it. Yes.
Okay. So again, more interaction. It's responding to what you're talking about. It actually said the word talk after, 3 or 4 other times talk was said.
And that
Well,
beeping
Steve-
that everybody's hearing, that's our walkie talkies when we're out in the trailer and
Right.
we're talking to people inside. So that, we're getting ready to, you're getting ready to talk to Scott, and he's asking a question, but it's almost like intelligent because
Yes.
it's responding to what's going on around it.
Mm-hmm.
And walkie-talkies have been known to generate, fields which would cause K2s to go off. But at the time that those were going off with you, the walkie-talkie wasn't being used and nobody was pressing the buttons. So,
That's interesting. I have not heard that one before.
oh, okay. Well, good. Well, there might be another couple here that you might not have heard. So, so now we'll go on. So the next clip again, you and Trish, again, a lot of the evidence that we caught is from yours, Trish's sessions. And again, I don't know if we mentioned that Trish she was the founder of SPI before, excuse me, before Mike and Sandy took it over.
Yep.
Pardon me. allergies at this time of year. It's so humid around here. So the next clip is going to be, again, you guys having more K2 activity, but there's going to be a voice that comes across, and I think it says something, but I'll let you guys hear it. So. So I'll play it again. So listen to what it says.
I hear the voice, but I can't make out what it's saying.
Yeah.
And this is one of the hard parts about trying to play these files over a podcast like this, is because I don't know exactly how well each one will come across. Sometimes it's easier when we got the headphones on and we can crank things up, and I don't want to blast things out, and but to me it almost sounds like it says I love you.
We were
I could be
talking
mistaken.
It sounds like. Did you get that impression?
It almost sounded male to me. But again, this, we've talked about this before. Different people hear different things. That's why we always try to come to a consensus. But do you remember at all, like when at those times, like, when you were talking about, like, said, hi, did you follow us here? Is it because, did you feel something, or because the K2s were going off?
Wish I knew where this took place, because I recall sensing there were children upstairs, but they actually lived there at one time, because
Okay.
the bedrooms were upstairs. They used to play. That's right. They used to play up there. The bedrooms up there, but they used to play up there also. But then another time, we were downstairs where the piano is. And I remember sensing that there was somebody young down there also. Yeah.
So could have been in relation to that.
Could have. I wonder if they followed us down. I don't know.
Maybe.
And it's
Maybe they were
fun 'cause-
having fun.
Yeah.
And one of the things we try to do when we're presenting the evidence to the client, we don't tell them what we think something says. We give them
Right.
headphones. We, boost the audio if we need to so they can hear it. And, they may hear the same thing we hear. They may not hear the same thing we hear. And we'll tell them what we think it says. But we never try to tell them it's what it's saying. If they hear something different, that's fine too. But we try, even when we're doing seminars and, presentations, we try not to tell people what it's saying ahead of time. We want them to hear it and then see if they can figure out what they think it says. And if they come to consensus with what we think it says as well, that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
very
some of them are
easy.
so clear. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so easy to influence just by saying a word. People already have that in their head. That's why, like I said, we let them come to their own conclusion first.
Mhm.
Cool. So I'll move on to the next one. So this one, again, Jen and Trish have a lot more activity going on. This one is different because you're going to hear what I feel to be, it almost sounds like mumbling through most of the clip. More K2 hits. So I'll play this for you so you can hear it and then give me your impression on it.
All right, here we are. We're in the piano room now.
I think you're in the piano room.
Yeah.
Huh? There's
Do you like this room?
They both come on, they both stop at the exact same time. Is that just not weird?
Well, we know it's not just one malfunctioning.
Uh-huh. Next time it happens.
So you hear all that mumbling and that chatter in the background.
Yes.
And what I find interesting is because of the fact that both of your K2s did the exact same things at the exact same times, it wasn't just one responding and the other one not. They both were. When that, when you hear that static, that's when the K2s are hitting. So something was hitting, and we have no idea what it was.
It almost
That's
feels
cool.
like they were having a conversation, and we came into the room, and
And they just kept talking.
I kept talking.
Yeah.
Whether it's a residual, I don't know, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but again, it was so interesting, like I said, going back and revisiting these clips and hearing that constant mumbling. And then, even when one of the K2s are going off and you got that static, there was a voice that came over, but it's so hard to tell what it is. And,
Right.
trying to amplify these files and stuff, it was just, these are older files on an older recorder. So sometimes they don't always work as well with the newer software. So I just left that one as is.
Right.
So the next one, this is Scott and I when we were upstairs. So I'll set this one up. This was the night before Trisha's birthday. So remember we had that all planned out where we were going to go out to the trailer at midnight. So Scott and I were upstairs. We were setting up some devices. We set up a recorder and an Ovilus, or Ovilus. I always say that wrong. You don't have one. So, and then we leave and we go outside. Okay. So there's a point in time where you're going to hear us go down the steps. You're going to hear the door close, and then you're going to hear something else. So let me play this for you.
Want to head down because it's like 5 minutes to her birthday.
What time is it?
It's like 11:55.
All right, we'll come back up and we'll pop it in the attic.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling anything up here.
All right, Quartermaster Hollingsworth, we will be back, sir. We have to take a moment to go wish our friend a happy birthday. If you'd like to wish her happy birthday,
Come with us.
come with us, please. The more the merrier, sir. So as we were talking to Master Hollingsworth, Can you say that again, please? We have official business to take care of. Okay, so I'll point out when the door closes, and at that point there is nobody in the house. So I'll talk about that little jump in the audio there. That was the back door. Now, nobody else in the house. Okay, so near the end there, tell me what you think you heard.
At the very end of that clip.
Yeah, I'll go back and play it again right around that area.
Mm-hmm.
So it was right in that spot right there.
It was very faint.
It was footsteps.
Yeah, it sounded like something walking.
Now, again, this is an older file, so I can, at some point try to go back and clean this up a little bit more. But so we had set up the voice recorder. So I set the voice recorder at the top of the stairs, right on the top step by that banister. We'd got the other device set up, and then we walked down. And you could tell, I mean, those stairs were like super loud in that house too.
Mhm.
But
Very
after
loud.
we get outside, and then those footsteps started happening, right after that, the voice recorder turned off. So it didn't pause or anything. It was off. When we came back upstairs, we had to turn it back on. But one thing that's interesting about this clip is when I went back in and was reviewing this, there's actually another voice on this EVP that I completely missed, which could have been, equipment at the time, headphones or whatever. But at the beginning, there's another voice that comes in, and I'll play that again. You'll hear the sound jump up. This happens about the 30-second mark. I'll tell you when it's going to happen.
Let's want to head down because it's like 5 minutes to revert back. What time is it? It's like 11:55. All right, then we'll come back up and we'll pop up in the attic.
Yeah, I heard that right there.
Yeah, so I missed that. I completely missed that the last time we went through this, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but it's just interesting because, again, the interaction. We go downstairs, you hear the door close, then you start hearing footsteps after we're out of the house, and there was nobody there. But one thing to point out,
sounded like it said, "Yeah." Is that what you heard?
so I didn't want to say what it was. It just said, went, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another voice later on in the clip that it's kind of hard to make out what it said. But the thing too is if you hear a clip like that and you hear the car noise, that was one of the problems that we had on this investigation because the house wasn't close to the road, but it picked up every single car coming by there. And it made it difficult at times because sometimes all you could hear were cars coming by.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true.
Now there was that spot there that you amplified that.
Yes, with the voice.
Yeah. Can you jump back to that real quick?
Yeah.
All right, then we'll come back up and we'll pop up in the attic.
Okay.
Yeah, which actually I didn't amplify that one because it was so close to the other voices. That's the
Okay.
hard part because it's like a quick jump and I didn't want to do that. But you can, this one doesn't need to be amplified. I
No,
probably
yeah.
should have amplified the footsteps. I mean, to me, on my system, everything sounded nice and clear.
Yeah.
Hearing it now, could have probably done that, but
That's all right.
so, but like I said, I found that one to be extremely interesting that we actually picked up the footsteps. One of the claims that they've heard footsteps there. So, and it was upstairs too. It wasn't like it was downstairs. I mean, there clearly was upstairs. So the next one, so Jen, I'll set this one up for you because I know prior to this clip, Trish had an experience where she had her neck touched, correct?
Yeah.
And it was up in that area where the picture I showed of Scott, it was, by those closets or cabinets or whatever was at the top of the stairs.
Right. Yeah.
So you guys are back up there and I'll play this one just so you can kind of hear, what she experienced.
God, now I just got a stiff neck.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You all right?
Yeah. Man, it just hurts now. Before it was just cold, now it hurts.
Somebody touch you again?
Mm-mm. If they did, I don't know because I put my hood up because I'm cold.
Oh, were you over there with
Look,
Trish?
now it's only,
Huh? Were you over there with her? Were you trying to let her know about something?
they can't not see that on that camera because that thing is lighting up so bright that it's lighting up your face.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, I could see detail in your face. Right now, I can't even see your face. They have to be able to see that.
I don't know if they can. I mean,
Well, we don't have a radio to call them, so.
yeah. Remember that, and as I recall, the next day she actually had a scratch mark on the back of her neck.
Yeah, she sent that picture to me. I wish I could find it. It was sent to my old Yahoo email. But I remember her sending that, and it was like, okay, that's interesting.
Right. Yeah, that was. I'm glad it was her, not.
Yeah, you had your own interactions.
Yeah, you just started talking different, but yeah, go ahead. You get scratched. I'll talk funny. That's great. That's crazy.
Crazy, doesn't it?
So I do have one more audio clip. This is actually one from the garage. Now I know that we went there twice. Some of the clips, like this next clip, is from the second visit, because the last time we didn't do anything in the garage, but we did the second one. Actually, I wasn't there at the second one, and there was 3 clips of this happening in the garage. This was actually the best clip, and thinking now, I'm kind of hoping I kind of wishing I would have went back and amplified it, because now hearing those footsteps kind of light, it might not come across as well as I'd hoped. But I'll play it. Again, this is in the garage. It's one of the noises that was heard in the garage.
And keep in mind, Steve, before you play it, we can always go back, and if we need to amplify it, we can post it in the comments on YouTube. So we can always amplify it later and post it there for people to get to and listen to it at a later date as well.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. So I'll say when it happens. See, do I got it there? Okay. So
Is that you? It is. Can you do that again?
it was Jen responding to it. I'll go back. I'll play it again. So it's going to happen right about. It sounds. It's just a little knock.
Yeah.
But it happened multiple times in the garage, and I mean, yeah, you could think, well, there could have been a critter in there or something. But I think at the time, we were using the garage as kind of the home base because we didn't have the trailer at the time, so everybody was kind of working in there. Is that correct? Because I wasn't there. I don't remember.
I think we had
I
the
think we were in
trailer.
the place. We were
You're right.
as I recall. I think we had the trailer the first time, and the
Mhm.
second time, I think we were set up in the basement, weren't we?
We were.
Oh.
Yeah, we were in the basement. I remember that now. Yep.
Okay. See, I wasn't there for the second one. I couldn't make it. So
Yeah.
okay. Cool. I mean, for the main interesting EVPs, those were like the best ones that were there. But I think it kind of gives an idea of how active it was while we were there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it was a
but I do
fun
have some
lot of
video clips. Yeah, there are some video clips too. A couple of them. I'll go ahead and I'll show those. So the first one, this is on the second visit out there, and this is in the dining room. And I'll play it, and then I'll let Mike talk about this one since he was there with you guys.
Yep.
You can do more than that, can't you?
So we're going to play it again in just a second. But what I want people to look at is I want you to look at the top of the chair. I had set my camera down on the table, kind of pointing over at Jen. I believe we'd kind of heard some things in that hallway behind her at some point. So I set my little handheld camcorder pointing over at Jen. And that chair, we didn't realize it at first, actually moves. And then it moves a little bit more, and then kind of stops. And it happens right after I say, you can do more than that, can't you? And what's interesting about it is when we went back to, show this to the client, I remember we were stomping up and down and walking around trying to figure out any way to make that chair shake. And we couldn't get it to shake. But again, as you can see, we're all there's no one around the chair, and it just kind of moved on its own. So go ahead and play that again. And what you can do as a reference point is just look at the top line of the chair, and just past that, you've got the mirror in the doorway, and you'll see the chair shake just very, very little bit, but it shakes a little bit and a little bit more and then stops.
Okay, here goes.
You can do more than that, can't you?
Yeah, you just see it go just a little bit like that, little to the left and right.
Mhm.
So not huge, not super significant, but still enough to be like, okay, we ask, hey, you can do more than that, can't you? And all of a sudden the chair moves just a little bit.
Yep.
Intelligent. It's reacting to what we're saying.
All right.
That
So
was
now
cool.
you had talked about you moved your camera because you had heard something. So I have that video clip, and I will play that now.
Cool.
Are you over here?
Yep.
So those
And
were
you-
the knocks you were talking about.
Yep. And it's funny, you can see I'd set my camera down, and just at the end of that clip, the camera's sitting in the frame for that chair to move that came after
Yes.
that. So I mean, the knocks were pretty evident.
Oh yeah, let me play it again.
Are you over here?
And there's a third one there, isn't there, right at the end? Is there a third one there? Maybe I misheard that. But seeing Jen's reaction to that, there's nothing creepier than being on an investigation and hearing something behind you. It's like I would rather something happen right in front of me. When it's behind you, you're like, what the heck? And seeing Jen's reaction, it's like, are you over there? And it's not like she was like spooked or anything. She was just reacting to it. Me, I'd be like, what the heck was that? Jen's like, are you there? Just so calm.
Well, that's like the plaster falling at Bruce Mansion. You heard that, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Now, in
You know, Mike,
retrospect,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I think, Mike, is this also where we picked up on the age of the man that used to live there? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I do remember that. I completely forgot about that.
yeah, I
It
think
was
it
somewhere-
was. It was
You
right in this area someplace. And
yeah.
I remember thinking of an age, and you mentioned something about his name was Miss. Can I say his name, the deceased person? Or you prefer?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Anyways, the gentleman that lived there prior to our client, he passed away, and we were picking up his vibration, his energy, whatever. And I remember we were talking about him being an older gentleman, and we were talking about his age. And I think I said to you, Mike, what are you getting? And I believe you said 86. I goes, that's just
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think we actually checked, and of course, when we checked, he'd already passed away, but it was 86.
Yep. I forgot all about that. So you mentioned that. That was weird too. Like
Yeah.
I don't claim to have any sort of ability to pick up on things like that. It's just a number that popped in my head when you asked that. And that was significant. That was pretty interesting. I never had that happening either. This place was awesome.
And maybe it was where you were sitting. It could have been in relation to that desk you mentioned.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
true.
So,
Yeah,
in retrospect, now that we talk about these two clips, had I known, like I said, since I wasn't on this investigation, I would have done the knocking first and then the chair shake, since it went in that relation. But live and learn.
That's okay. It's still interesting. I'm kind of glad we did it this way, because I found that the chair shake is kind of like, that's pretty good. But
I thought the
knocks
chair
are
shake was pretty interesting. That's why I wanted to lead off with it. So
yeah. I thought I like the knocks better. I think the knocks and Jen's reaction to it are just very awesome. I enjoy that.
So one last clip that we have, and I know we talk about this in the past. This one kind of, we talk about orbs. 99.99999 infinitesimal percent of the time, it's dust. It's something other than what people want to see out of it. But we did catch something in the garage. I'll play it. People can make up their own conclusions of it. Let me get this queued up here. And here we go.
There they go. Ooh, it went right by you, Jennifer.
I'm sorry?
Went right by you.
Oh,
You okay?
yep. My hair's all standing up.
Yeah, I imagine it
I'm
is.
cold. I'm like really cold.
Okay.
So let me play that again. So lower portion of the screen, you should see something shiny and glittery.
There they go. Ooh, it went right by you, Jennifer.
I'm sorry?
Went right by you.
Oh,
You okay?
yep. My hair's all standing up.
Yeah, I imagine it
I'm
is.
cold. I'm like really cold.
Okay.
So again, orbs.
That's a, we could have a 5-hour podcast on orbs alone and never come to conclusion on them. But that was interesting. Just I think Jen, you were watching it on your camera as it was moving along, and then the other Jen, which we were affectionately referred to as J2. 'Cause this
Jen
is
was referred to as J1 since she was
J1.
the original Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we had J2, and so it was interesting because I think you were watching it, and then her reaction, just the hair on her neck standing up and being cold, was probably a really cool personal experience for her too, to have that happen.
Probably. Yeah. I think so.
And again, we talked too. It's like, by you mentioning it and telling her what you're seeing, was she affected by it, or was she affected by what you were saying and responding to it like she was just getting freaked out? I mean, that's one thing we'll never really be able to
No, you
tell for
won't.
sure.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But
it is.
yeah, but I mean, and we went out there twice. We did try to go out a third time, but at the time, the client, she had gotten married, had a baby, and she didn't want to stir anything up or have anybody come out at that time. So it has since been sold. There are new owners to the home. I mean, at some point, we could probably try to reach out to them and say, "Hey, your house is haunted. Mind if we come in?"
Nothing more fun than walking up to people and saying, "Your house is haunted. We would love to check it out." I mean, if they think we're crazy now, I'm just saying. But yeah, it's
we would be more professional than that. It's fun to joke.
you
would
guys
just-
would be more professional than that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but that was that place that's up there on my top 5 of all the places we've investigated. That house, the Highland House, we've investigated a few times, but this is definitely one of my top 5 just from personal experiences, evidence that was caught. And even over and above that, I think the great thing, talking about, celebrating Trisha's birthday and stuff, I think that's one of the great things is we don't just do this and not have relationships with each other. I mean, this is the first time I've seen Jennifer in a handful of years, pre-COVID, and it's just great because you build relationships with these people, and you develop a family mentality. You start to grow and love and care about the people on your team, and so it's fun when you get to do these things, not just to investigate houses, but you're doing them with people you enjoy being around. I think that's the greatest part about it. And we go into a house and we do an investigation, and if there's something there and it senses our camaraderie and how we enjoy being with each other, maybe it's more likely to manifest because it feels more comfortable, because it can sense our comfortable with each other, our comfortableness with each other. So that's, again, it's just, that was one of my favorite experiences at any investigation we've ever had. I was, unfortunately, I couldn't make the first one. I think, if I remember correctly, Trish and I think share a birthday, or it's like a day apart, something like that. I think she's on
the day apart, isn't it?
I think hers is on the 24th and mine's on the 23rd of that month. Yeah.
One is Earth Day. Hers is Earth Day. I remember that. Is that the 23rd?
I think hers is the 22nd. I think the 22nd is Earth Day because my birthday is the 23rd. So, so I think I had something going on with my family, so I couldn't make the first one. So hearing all the stuff that happened at the first one, when we knew we were going back, I'm like, I'm not missing that one. There's no way. But just like when I had that experience and I walked outside, I had Jonathan there to kind of help, get me through it. And, and Jennifer being concerned. I think that's the great thing about the team, is just, the people that you get to do this stuff with. And, I think that's one of the greatest parts about all this. So.
Yes, it's nice to see both of you, and gosh, thanks, Steve, for getting all the information and putting it together.
Yes.
And
hey, we're glad you could make it, because we miss you. I mean, like I said, you're always one of my favorite investigating partners. We picked up so much stuff, and and we have to get you out sometime. We'll come drag you out.
Yeah,
whether you're kicking and screaming.
Once we find that person, we're going to go up to people's houses, tell them their house is haunted, and we've got a special guest to investigate it. So we're going to work on that.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
Awesome. Well, I think that about does it for this podcast. Jen, again, thank you for joining us. It was fantastic to
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Love
Thank
having you here, Steve. Again, thank you for putting all this together, getting all this the evidence ready to go and put together so we can share it with people. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Like and subscribe. Oh
There
man,
you go. There you go.
Jen, do you want to do it too? Come on.
What am I supposed to say? Like and subscribe.
Yes, there we go. Steve, one more time.
Like and subscribe.
All right, I
Ooh,
think Steve
that
is a
sounded
way cooler.
professional.
That was that was professional. I'm not doing it ever again, Steve. This is now your job to like and subscribe.
And I apologize. My voice isn't up to its usual sultry level because of my my sinuses and my allergies going with this humidity and stuff. So I don't got my Alan Allman going on today in Pillow Talk.
Yeah, that's all right.
And for if that's a reference, that's a local it's a radio show, back some time ago where he'd come on and he'd talk all sensual and
Yeah,
talk
also
about
great.
people's
Just-
relationships and play music with romance and stuff.
We're going way off track here, but I will say for the longest time, I thought that was Alan Alda from the MASH TV show. I'm like, that sounds nothing like him on TV. It was really weird.
It's Alan Allman.
I know that threw me off. I was young. I don't. It was it is what it is. Anyway,
We'll let it slide.
thank you. I appreciate that. All right, thanks, guys. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're going to hope to do one again in a couple of weeks. We'll be sure to share that out there. And once again, Jennifer, thank you for joining us tonight. And for those of you out there watching, we hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you soon. Thanks,
Like
everyone.
and subscribe.
There it is.